secondary class.
I had their attention. I had their attention. You're praying.
Good God, we come before you right now in the name of Jesus, thanking you for all that you've done, praising you and honoring you this day. Father God, I ask right now that you give us a heart of open up our eyes and our ears and our hearts and our souls and our minds that we may receive your word today. Anyway, just my our eyes and to uplift our spirit. Amen.
Amen. So today is not going to seem very Christmassy, but thematically, I'm going to carry over the things we were talking about the past couple of weeks. You know, like what does it mean to be the carriers of the good news, and what is the purpose for our lives if we really believe that our lives are being transformed and that we have been saved and are being saved and will be saved, as the Bible puts it. The main text I'm going to use is going to be John 21, but we're not going to start there. There's a passage that I normally can burn an entire class on, but I kind of really felt led to kind of hit this, you know, and it's rough. For those of you who don't know this already, the concept of the phrase getting wasted originates in the Bible. It originates in Ephesians chapter 5. And what the passage basically says is this, you know, so therefore don't get drunk, for that is waste. But where he drops that in Ephesians 5 is fascinating to me, because it's buried in the middle of all of the super famous passages that most of you are probably familiar with about, you know, if you're a father, this is the type of father you should be to your children. If you're a husband, this is what it looks like to be a good, godly husband. If you're a wife, this is what it looks like to be a good, godly wife. If you're a mother, be this sort of a mother. If you're a neighbor, be this sort of a neighbor. And buried right in the middle of there, and you don't have to turn, it says, look carefully then how you walk, not as unwise, but as wise, making the best use of the time, because the days are evil. That's a nice poetic way of saying, listen, time is not on your side. So here we go. Therefore, do not be foolish, but understand what the will of the Lord is, and do not get drunk with wine, for that is waste. And most of us, to one degree or another, probably used to believe that the term getting wasted was just a great way of talking about partying, what I'm going to do this weekend. But man, does Satan really know how to do moves on us, because what we were really doing is bragging about, if I'm a father or a mother, I am choosing to be wasted as a father or a mother. I'm making myself unavailable. If I'm a son or a daughter to a parent who could really use a good son or daughter, I'm choosing to be wasted as the child that they need me to be. Everything that I could be at my full potential, I'm actively wasting it. I mean, that's what it means to be wasted. Is the person that I could be, I'm choosing to not be. The person that the people around me need for me to be, I'm choosing to not be. Everything that would be a resource to others or a benefit to the world or the family that surrounds me, I'm making it unavailable. I'm making it unusable. And that is a rough little mini message that Paul is dropping in there. I mean, and listen, he wasn't having a stroke. He knew what he was doing, just going off on what seems like a little side note in the middle of talking about, hey, if you're a child, be this sort of a child for your parents. Man, if you're a business owner, treat the people who work for you good. If you are an employee or a servant, or you're in servitude paying off a debt, Man, be the best possible servant you can be. All of it to show Jesus to the other people in your life. And so this is why he's like, so don't get drunk with wine, for that's waste. Waste of what? A waste of who we're supposed to be in all of our various roles in this world. I mean, we are all somebody to other people. And so if we really believe that God is doing a transformative work in our lives and is giving us purpose and is reshaping us and is giving us a hope that other people need, man, we need to be available. And so there's no more room. I mean, I went into that a couple of weeks ago. Like, it's really not a fruitful question to be like, well, how come I can't do this and why come that? Listen, who am I supposed to be now? And does any of the behavior that I'm thinking about make sense in describing that person? And if not, I don't have to be like, well, why is this a sin? And what? Wrong question. The right question really comes down to, do I know who I am and who I'm meant to be becoming? And so what does it benefit me or anybody to carry on a behavior that is counterproductive to the person I'm being shaped into being with the plan and the vision I have for who I will be? And so, the goal is, I can't ever think of better phrasing, so I always fall back on it. In the words of reggae legend Jacob Miller, forward ever, backward never. But we're going to be in John 21 to discuss that. And as you're turning to John 21, kind of like what I did with Matthew 1, I really want to almost get to Sesame Street levels, borderline insulting my own and everyone else who hears me, our intelligence collectively, in explaining John 21 is the last chapter of the gospel according to John. And just like with Matthew 1's placement, the good Lord could have placed this anywhere in the four gospels, but not only is it the final chapter of John, it's literally the final note of all four gospels. Like, they want you to read everything else and then get to this little story. And this is a well-trod path. Multiple teachers have probably hit this, but there's little beats in this that I really think are important on a mission teens level. This is for everybody, but this can really be for people like us. Because in a nutshell, here's what happens in this story. Jesus has been crucified. He's been risen from the dead. They've seen him. And on a day when Jesus isn't around, Peter's like, I'm bored. I'm going fishing. And a couple of the other disciples are like, I could use a nice day out on the lake. We'll go with you. And they have a very unsuccessful little fishing trip. And then Jesus is out on the shoreline, and he's just like, if you throw the net where I tell you, you'll have tremendous success. And they do it, and all of a sudden there's more fish than they know what to do with, and they go and they have a nice little meal with Jesus on the shore by a fire. It's very rustic. It seems idyllic. That's really not what's happening. This story is absolutely sinister. If we really take a look at the tools that the Bible gives us in it, this is what it says. After this is how this passage starts. So after what? After everything else written in the Gospels, after every miracle, after the death and resurrection of Jesus, after every blind man has been given sight, after every hungry person has been fed, after every lost person has been found, after every life that has been transformed in everything in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, after all of that, after this, Jesus revealed himself again to the disciples by the Sea of Tiberias, and he revealed himself in this way. Simon Peter, Thomas called the twin, Nathanael of Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, that's John and James, and two other of his disciples were together. And Simon Peter said to them, I am going fishing. After this, after everything that Jesus has done for 3 years to transform Peter's life, after everything Peter has witnessed, after everything Jesus has told him is now the purpose of his life, after all of this, it seems real innocent. He goes, I'm going fishing. What Peter is saying is, I am going and picking up my old life. I'm going back to who I was because I don't know what to do when Jesus isn't here in my ear, constantly repeating over and over and over again what my next move should be. Like, I'm going to tell you real quick how the will of God works with a passage that some of you have heard me kind of skim on. The very first time that the Israelites ever hear the voice of God is horrible. Horrible, right? They don't believe in Yahweh. Listen, the whole point is they've forgotten who he is while they're in Egypt. Their fathers forgot, their grandfathers forgot. I mean, God tells Moses, go to my people and you have to reintroduce them to me, and you are going to lead them out of Egypt, lead them out of their bondage, and you will behold my wonders and you will witness me. So these people don't believe in God. They barely believe in Moses. And Moses come on, brothers and sisters, we are out of here. And they loot the place on the way out, which absolutely ticks off Egypt. I mean, these guys were not just like next level slaves where Egypt was like, we can't bear to loot. The Bible tells us why Egypt is coming to kill them, not bring them back, kill them, because they're like robbing the place on the way out the door. Day one, this is what happens. As far as the eye can see in front of them is water. They turn around, and as far as the eye can see behind them are the people that they just escaped from, who they also robbed on their way out the door. And so famously, they start crying out to Moses, like, were there not enough graves in Egypt that you had to bring us out here to die? And God bless Moses. He tries, real spiritual at first, this is the moment I've brought them. I've done as you've commanded. Show them your wonders. But here's the thing. The Israelites are crying, not to God, to Moses, do something. And the Bible tells us that Moses actually starts repeating them to God, like, do something. And God's exact words, if you want comfort, here it comes. Why are you crying to me? But he doesn't leave it there. Move forward. I already told you the direction for your life. I already told you what direction your salvation is in. God isn't crazy enough to tell us we might actually have to go through some trials, or we would probably never go. But we don't have to be like, are you sure, God? God, okay, what's our next move? What's our next move? He already told us the direction. And if you want to see the sea part, sometimes we have to get our ankles wet. And so we aren't always like, all right, now Jesus, my next move. All right, Jesus, do I move my right foot? Sometimes he's going to be very, very silent. A lot of times that's our own doing because we've just drowned him out. But a lot of times Jesus is just going to be silent. And that is not our cue to start leaning on our own understanding. But the point of what we're going to get into in John 21 is that is definitely not our cue to start going backward. What is happening here is absolutely nightmarish if you know what we're looking at. Because 3 years earlier, Peter didn't even have a name. He was a fisherman with no identity. And Jesus came to him and said, follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. And here's the word that's used, immediately. Immediately, Simon dropped his net and became a disciple of Jesus. The minute that he's not hearing Jesus, I'm just not feeling him. Was he ever really even here? He goes and picks up his net right where he dropped it. I don't know what else to do except what I know to do. No, here's the thing. We've been taught a new thing. Even if we don't fully grasp it, even if we're not 100% committed, we're in the process of being shown a new thing for our life. We're being shown a new identity, and our old identity, I mean, this is really what I was talking about last week. I mean, once we get bought with a price, I mean, look, we do ourselves dirty. I mean, like, here's what we do in the, like, not just the mission. I mean, just as a Christianity in general, right? The worship team will start playing some minor chords and start talking softer. And then all of a sudden, like, red filters will go on the lights, right? And it won't be you. Someone behind you will be, yes, Lord. And we know how we'll load up the altar. I mean, you'll have people be like, rebaptize me. Right? It'll be incredible. Like, everyone just commits. Nobody reads the fine print. Nobody ever reads the fine print in the deal. Like, your life is no longer your own. And so nothing you used to do is going to work the way it used to work. That is the beauty of John 21. Peter was a professional fisherman. And he laid it down to get a new purpose in his life. And the minute he didn't hear Jesus, the minute Jesus wasn't just doing tricks in his face, the first day he goes like, oh, I can't remember the last time I saw a miracle. I'm really drying up here. I know why we're all laughing. This happens to us all the time. I'm just in a spiritual desert. I can't remember the last time I saw God do anything good. Dude, half of us wake up after what we did to our bodies. I mean, like, seriously, like, God is just doing things endlessly. We're sort of like, it's been so long. Peter goes a day where he's just like, hey, guys, when was the last time you heard the Lord? And they're like, I can't even recall. And what Peter does, he goes, well, I guess I know what to do. Just go back to exactly what I was doing before I even met him. And this is the most mission teens part of this story, right? He gets a whole bunch of people who have no background in that, who are like, oh, I've never tried that before. Yeah, I'll go with you. I'm like, you know how many times people leave this program going absolutely backward in their walk, and somebody else is like, yeah, you know what? I was actually thinking about trying fentanyl. I mean, how many times have you heard stories, right? And some of you guys, you probably even know people. Like, it's some like absolutely no street in them whatsoever, white collar, nerdy criminal gets sent to like Yardville for like accidentally stealing a pen from the United States Postal Service. Like, seriously, like tax evasion. Like they seriously, they were fraudulent on their taxes. And they get put in a cell with like some like Nation of Islam leader or like Aryan Brotherhood. The next thing you know, they come out and they're like, I have everything I need in my back pocket to start a meth empire now. Like they had no background in it whatsoever. And then they just met somebody and it was just like, can you repeat that? Right, and the next thing you know, like, they're cooking meth in a trailer. Like, it's insane. Like, dude, you stole some stamps. Like, how did this happen to you? Here's what happened to you. You met someone who was on the wrong path, and you were like, I've got nothing else going on. Any of us never have anything else going on and follow someone we shouldn't have followed? Dude, seriously, I know you get lonely on Friday night. Don't answer your phone. Peter's like, I'm going fishing. And the rest of them are like, oh, I've never tried that. And they get, listen, this is one of my favorite details in the story. Peter has not been a professional fisherman for 3 years. He's been homeless with Jesus. So whatever boat Peter gets his hands on, these dudes are not on like some epic sea vessel.
Right.
They're in some little rickety little boat they can get their hands on, and they're cold and they're wet and they're miserable and they're endlessly unsuccessful. I mean, like 3 hours into it, one of them's like, I thought you were good at this. And they stay out all night. Now, this is it. Now, listen.
Wait, this sounds familiar.
Absolutely. There will be two of you tops who what I'm about to say is just completely foreign to you. You know that person who's like, yeah, I know where to score. And you get into some falling to pieces, taped up Olds 98, where the muffler's dragging and the power steering is drained and they're and you're riding shotgun while your people in the back and you have to keep using the rag to wipe the inside of the windshield because none of the defroster works. And he's just like, oh man, they're usually here. And you're just cruising around all night just miserable, yo, man, I thought you knew people. Dialing every phone number. Oh, I can't believe that's disconnected. I wonder what happened to them. I don't know. They were a drug dealer. I'm sure I can figure out what happened. Right? Every door you knock on, they don't live there no more. Somebody's answering the door with a gun. 2 o'clock in the morning, yo. Then they look at you in the car and they're and then you just keep doing it. And the next thing 8 hours go by and you're like, we've just been driving the same 3 blocks. Right? And we're just rolling and rolling and rolling and not successful at all. I'm going to skip this. This is my favorite part of this entire passage. And some of you know this, I have been on both sides of this. I'll get into why they had success. It was, spoiler alert, it's Jesus. The minute they're like, that's Jesus. Nobody else, Peter, the driver, is just like, I'm going to the Lord, and jumps out of the boat. None of the rest of these guys are professional fishermen. You don't know if they know how to row this thing. Listen, I've been there. You've been in the back seat of somebody who was riding around the hood trying to help you score some drugs, and all of a sudden they just start crying because some song comes on the radio and they're like, I need to go back to Teen Challenge. And they don't even put the car in park. You're in the back seat trying to reach over and you just start rolling through the intersection. They just get up and go. I mean, some of you know this. This legitimately happened to me. I had never done intravenous drugs in my life. That wasn't my move. I was always into uppers because I used to be in better shape and I used to fight a lot. And so I always I needed an advantage. Complete and utter mental incapacitation. But one time I was really depressed and I was hanging out with depressed people. Depressed people all do heroin. And this is what happened. I did it. I was like, I've never tried that. And so here's what happened. True story. I had no idea how to strap myself up, so somebody else shot me up. They didn't even put the needle back down in the works, and all of a sudden they're like, what am I doing? No, not now. No, you can't have this moment now. They were like, I'm so sorry. Jesus, I'm coming home. And then they just left. I'm like, wait, am I going to die? Am I going to drift off? Dude, you couldn't have done this 5 minutes earlier. You put me on a boat in the middle of the sea and then decided it's time for you to go back to Jesus.
Amen.
That's cool. I'll just drown here in whatever you just shot me up with. Thanks for leaving me in the middle of the sea on a boat with no paddles because you had your go back to Jesus moment. Oh, good for you. Repentant to the last. I mean, you've been there, man. People have honestly been driving you around and then just left you in the middle of the hood. Wait here. Then they go scurrying up some alley and they never come back. Not because like they found like something, you know what happened? There was like some missionary up the alley. Or they went into the trap house and someone was wearing a Mission Teens t-shirt because they like went backward and they were like, you were at the mission? What am I even doing? You're out there freezing cold, no heat, engine still running, and they never come back. Right? This is what Peter does. It's insane. The starting move is on a day, one day, just one day where we aren't feeling the Lord. The songs just aren't hitting the way they normally do because the worship team isn't keeping you in mind. They're not playing your jams. Like why weren't they considering your feelings? Because everyone in this room's got their own personal bangers that like, I mean, you're barely even like, you're just like, oh, this is my song. Like, it's insane. And we all will have days where we're not hearing them. And we're all going to have days where the fire on our altar is starting to go out a little. And it's not up to, like, Jesus, how long are you going to keep me in suspense? Hit me with something else. No, we got to stand on what he's already hit us with. We don't need some new revelation. We need to just walk out the revelation he's already given us. Give me some more truth. What are we doing with the truth he already gave us? And so Peter, his move, it's terrible. It seems so innocent on the surface. What's wrong? He just went fishing. It was a day off. It was rec day for the disciples. What's wrong with this story? What's wrong with the story is 3 years earlier, Jesus was like, that isn't your identity. Follow me and I will make you fishers of men and I will give you a new identity and a higher purpose for your life. And the very first moment, Peter's just like, just not seeing them, just not hearing them, just not feeling them. I know what to do. Go back to being me. We will never, ever receive a cue, ever, under any circumstances. The cue will never come from on high. Now is the time to go back to who you were before Jesus. And this is why he's unsuccessful. Anyone who knew the Lord and then went back into addiction, it wasn't that those drugs sucked. Like every single thing we did was like, they sold me another beat bag. Meanwhile, like the Holy Spirit's like, right? I mean, seriously, look. I mean, we're calling a guy up like, yo, was it baking soda? See, everything we're smoking, we're like, is this arugula? Like what is, like, why does none of this work? None of this works. Because he's not going to let it work because we've been bought with a price and we are not going to have success in going backward. So this is how it works. I am going fishing. They said to him, we will go with you. They went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing except the flu. Just as day was breaking, Jesus stood on the shore, yet the disciples did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to them, children, do you have any fish? They answered him, no. Oh, I gotta stop. This is what I was telling you. This is my favorite little moment. This whole encapsulated. So they have this terrible night at something Peter told them. For 3 years he was like, I was a great fisherman. Every time they were near a sea, he'd see people on the boat like, yo, they're not doing that right. This is what these people would hear all for 3 years. Then he finally gets to flex. He finally gets his moment to flex for them, and it is misery. And as day breaks, this wording, I love it. You read it and you can, because we're thinking about Jesus, who's always just like, and Jesus said with compassion. You know what Jesus is like? Jesus is like, he starts with children, not men, not brothers, not adults, children. Catch anything? I love it. You catch it? Two of them in the bar are like, yeah, Peter. Did we catch anything? Now, keep in mind why I said these guys did not, have access to commercial shipping vessels. Because this is what happens. He said to them, cast the net on the right side of the boat and you will find some. I don't know if you've ever thought about this. I promise you, it's the exact same water. Like, they didn't have to pull the nets in and walk across the aircraft carrier. Like, this took no effort whatsoever. They're just sitting in place like. And now they're catching more fish than the net can withhold. Same exact water. Because if you've ever thrown a net off of a small boat, you know where the net goes, right under. Like Jesus wasn't like, you guys have been looking in the wrong direction. There's a reef. Jesus didn't eye up some massive school of fish that were just hanging out over here in the freshwater section. So that if they would just pull up the net and spend 20 minutes walking across the massive vessel that they're in this rickety little boat that's probably been taking water. And they throw the net on the other side of the boat, and it goes into the exact same spot that the net was. But because they're obedient to the voice of the Lord, suddenly it's miraculous what's happening. But that isn't even the move here. So they cast it, and now they were not able to haul it in because of that boat is tipping. Because of the massive quantity of fish, that disciple whom Jesus loved therefore said to Peter, it is the Lord. When Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he had stripped for work, and threw himself into the sea. You're on your own, bro. Dives in. I love it. I mean, we know most of these other people. The sons of Zebedee are the only other fishermen. I mean, there's a tax collector. He's just like, what now? So Peter jumps to go swim to the Lord, threw himself into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. Thanks, Peter. For they were not far from the land, but about 100 yards off. When they got out on land, they saw a charcoal fire in place with fish laid out on it. Here's the thing. The fish they caught isn't even what they end up eating. That was just so they would know that the Lord is at work in their lives and they would turn back to following him. See, the real message in that little bit of this is that you labor in vain. And whether we do it with right intentions or wrong intentions, whether we're leaning on our own understanding while we're trying to move forward, or whether we're consciously choosing to go backward, no matter what we do, what an absolute waste of our time, because when we just go back to Jesus, he already has prepared for us the thing we were laboring for. They don't even have to cook the fish they just caught. They're superfluous. The meal is already cooking when they get back to Jesus. And some of us, we have put excess wasted miles on our life, going far, far out of our way, trying to make something happen for ourselves, only to find out that when we go back to where the Lord is, the table's already set. Man, what were we doing? Other than learning a valuable lesson and spicing up our testimony, as Jason and I talk about all the time. See, the first time Jason went through wasn't much of a book. You need to go add some chapters sometimes. I don't recommend it, but some of you guys have done it. Right? Like, listen, the story wasn't compelling enough, so I just got to go out there and put some more damage on the resume. But that's about all that gets accomplished, because all we have to do is just turn back to where he is, and everything we've labored for is waiting for us. And some of us, we don't believe that because we still labor. We're still in the process of like, this is all well and good and it sounds great and I like parts of it and I understand how other people who are slightly needier than I am really could benefit from all of this hooey. But like, I'm just a realist. You're a realist sitting in a free Jesus program. Well, like, our realism hasn't done anything for us. So if we're still sitting here and all we're doing is laboring up here, I'm going to make things happen. Good luck with that. Because this room is filled with people who know that the minute we lay down our nets, even if we tried to pick them up again, man, there is nothing there that is going to work the way it used to work because we are no longer our own. We succumbed to the D minor chords and the red filtered lights and also the Holy Spirit. But man, we bought in. And that's a good thing, because the life we were living was just miserable. I'm sure this wasn't Peter's first unsuccessful night on the boat. But the problem is what Peter has to learn, and this is why, this is where it is. After everything that Jesus had done, this story. After everything Jesus had taught, this story. After the death, after the resurrection, after every miracle, after every sign, after every wonder, human nature is still, when we aren't hearing him, when we're not feeling him, I just got to go back to who I was. Only to find out the hard way, if you make it out alive, it doesn't work the way you remember it working. The success you thought you had, and it really wasn't. I mean, we had success at wasting ourselves. But man, nothing works the way it used to. Man, your pipe blows up. Like, I mean, it's crazy the stuff that happens. You go and try and pop a top off of a beer bottle, and then 8 hours later getting stitched up and tetanus shots. Like, it was Coors Light. Like, how did this happen? I mean, see, nothing worked. I mean, you really think, like, just my luck. This is why I'm an addict. Nothing ever works. Like, we turn straight up Eeyore. Like, you think it's not God that the first time you try to go out and score some drugs after you've followed the Lord a little bit, like, your car won't kick over? Yeah, your bike is stolen. It's crazy. Nothing works the way it used to work. I mean, seriously, it's not like we suddenly look worse. We probably look slightly better because we got a little Jesus in us and we've healed up a little bit and we put some weight on. We go back to the motel and they're like, we can't let you stay here anymore. You used to let me stay here when I was chasing people around the parking lot in my underwear. Look, I'm wearing a Mission Teen shirt. I've been to the dentist. But you let like Dawn of the Dead version of me live here. Like, yo, what's... But now all of a sudden they're like haters. Here's why: Jesus is not going to let us succeed at what we used to think we were succeeding at, because we are not ever, under any circumstances, going to be called back to our old life. There will be times when we can't hear him. There will be times when we're not recognizing his hand in our lives. There are going to be times where it seems like he's doing nothing at all. That is not a bad thing. I cannot emphasize what I'm about to say nearly enough, so I'm hoping you take it and wrestle with it for the rest of your earthly lives. The Bible would always say that the Israelites knew God's works. Moses knew God's ways. Now, here's what this means. The Israelites always had to wait for God to do something, and they're like, there he is. Our God is real. Moses knew God was in the room, even if God wasn't saying a word or lifting a finger. That's where we need to be. There's a reason when you get into the New Testament, they start doubling down on this idea that he's a friend. I don't know if you guys have actually mastered the art of this yet, but listen, you all know the saying, there is no awkward silence between friends. So if there is awkward silence and he's your friend, we're fine. He doesn't constantly have to be like, and now your left foot, and now your right foot, and now your left foot. If he told us the direction, it's the direction. If he told us the door, it's the door. If he gave us the path, it's the path. And just like with the Israelites, the reason he's not telling us everything that we're going to encounter is because if he told us half the stuff we'd have to go through, we would just stay in our slavery. I mean, this is hard, but I've adjusted. I mean, that's what the Israelites are saying to Moses, like, at least we knew we were being fed. You were slaves. What do you mean at least you knew you were being fed? But we will convince ourselves that the hell that I've made myself at home in, I'm used to it. I know the nuances of it. I've got some like cheat codes for it. Yeah, we don't. We're just living in hell and have made ourselves comfortable in it as much as we can. But God is going to be like, this is the path to your salvation. Prepare yourself for thorns, razor wire, some quicksand, and the minefield, and the tribe of pygmies with cannibalistic tendencies. We're like, I'm not going. I mean, who the heck is going to, like, seriously, like, anyone, like, seriously, start about, like, how would you like to be delivered from the horrible life you've been like, yeah, sign me up. It's just on the other side of this furnace. That's why we don't start with that. And that's not like the church being manipulative. Jesus knows, man. He comes in, he's just like, and neither do I condemn you. You're forgiven. Go and sin no more. And here's a hall pass for 3 free miracles that will require next to no work on your part. Right? I mean, like, you know, we had easy pass in the beginning. I mean, we just turn around, like, we don't even say amen, and it just falls through the ceiling and lands in our lap. We're like, yes! Yes, I will follow! Jesus isn't like, so here's what you're going to do. You're going to get purified like precious metal by going through fire. Do you know what that process is? I mean, if you've never been in this class, or you weren't here when we talked about this, like, the only way you would really have seen this is if you went to like, one of those like dope public schools that took you to Wheaton Village. Right? All we can do in the Bible is just read about stuff that just sounds like, oh yeah, I'm sure this knows what it's talking about. Like, and you will be purified like precious metal. That process is horrid. Look, so here's how it works. And if you've been to Wheaton Village or some other like OG place like the Renaissance Fair, you've seen it, right? The metal worker will take a piece of metal that has all these impurities and it's hard. The same way we are filled with impurities and hard, and we'll heat it till it starts to soften. And then some of the impurities that are close to the surface will float up and he'll skim them away. And then he'll be like, good enough as it is. Let's have some. No, it turns up the heat. And it gets even softer and it breaks down even more. And the more it breaks down, the stuff that's at the heart, that stuff gets to float to the surface and just be brushed away. And then you turn up the heat even more so that the things that are in the core, every impurity from the top to the bottom, from the exterior to the center of it, works its way out. And then only then will he let it cool down because it's purified. And God knows we need to go through increased heat to work through the things that need to come out of us. But man, nobody's going to tell you that the minute you're like, I just raised my hand during the altar call. They're like, you're going to burn. I mean, no, that's not what I mean, God in his mercies is like, listen, everything that's going to happen is good. But if we were told in advance, most of us would be like, yeah, I'm all right. I don't ever need to see my family again. I'll just start a new family. I mean, seriously, we would just convince ourselves, like, I'm going to lose my leg. Is it that bad? I mean, at least I know what I'm dealing with here. I mean, like, you're talking about furnaces, purification, iron sharpening iron. Yeah, I'm good. I mean, seriously, like, we would stay in Egypt. But just because Jesus is going to have moments where he wants you to just walk in obedience to what he's already told you, man, that's not like, well, I guess he's gone. Wow, that was wild, all that discipleship. Dude, we really saw some cool stuff. You know what I'm going to do? Back to the boatyard. No, dude, the stuff we've already seen, the lives we've already seen changed in each other, in ourselves. Man, if Jesus never bothered to speak again, we would have enough fuel to just keep moving forward in it, because we know what a better life looks like when people are starting to do right by ourselves and one another. Man, even if we felt like we were cut off completely from access to the kingdom and they weren't answering our calls, we have already seen that life in the kingdom is better than life in the world. Move forward. Forward ever, backward never. But Peter, man, listen, I'm hammering this because we need to understand it. This isn't at the beginning of Peter's journey. This isn't Jesus just got arrested. And that's the note I'm going to end on, which is why I'm going there. You know, there's this moment after it, right, where Jesus takes Peter aside and seems like he's having onset dementia. If you've read, like, Peter, do you love me? Peter's like, yes, Lord. And he's like, Peter, do you love me? Like, Jesus, you know I'm Peter, right? Like, and he does it 3 times. This is one of those moments where our English just doesn't translate it well enough. In the original Greek, it's the word love over and over, but it's very different sorts of love, right? I mean, one of them is philo, as in Philadelphia, which is brotherly love, you know. And so what Jesus is doing with this questioning is actually horrific to our flesh, our ego, because he's not just asking, do you love me? And Peter's like, yes. And he's like, Peter, do you love me? Here's what he's doing. He's asking in an ascending order that's actually going worse. Peter, do you love me? You know I do. Peter, do you consider me a brother? And then the third one is, Peter, am I even your friend? And the reason he's doing it 3 times is because just before this, Peter had denied him 3 times. And everybody knows that story, but nobody focuses on the part that matters the most to me in that. And this is where the rubber is about to hit the road for us and our commitment level, right? It's Christmas, not Easter, but we can do this. Jesus gets arrested. He's being taken away. And Peter will eventually sit down by the enemy's fire and deny him with his mouth. But this is the phrase, but Peter followed from a distance. And that's what happens with us. The moment we don't like where Jesus is going, yeah, I'm still a follower, but I'm going to follow from a distance. I'm going to stay close enough that if I need something, I can cry out to my Savior and he'll save. But if I don't like the direction Jesus is going, I'm going to put some space. And what happens when you put distance between you and Jesus because you want to follow from a distance and not follow wholeheartedly, walking in lockstep with him, the same thing that happened to Peter. Because eventually Peter ended up in the dark and he ended up cold and hungry. And the nearest place where there was warmth and there was food was the camp that was about to put Jesus on the cross. And we have done this, any of us who have ever walked with the Lord and then tried to walk and follow from a distance, at some point, Man, we go and we find our comfort at the enemy's camp. And sometimes, just like in John 21, we just turn around and go completely backward. See, Peter's betrayal wasn't denying Jesus 3 times. The betrayal is when we try to follow Jesus from a distance, because when we follow from a distance, we're not committed, we're not really following, we're not walking with him, we're walking behind him. And eventually, some of us are going to find our way to the enemy's camp, and that's where we'll start denying him with our mouths. But at some point, man, Peter just turned around and went right back and picked up his net where he dropped it. And there are going to be moments where we don't hear Jesus, or sometimes we're really not just going to like the direction he's leading us in. We are never going to be called to follow from a distance, but we are never going to be called to go back and pick up our old life where we dropped it before we met him. We are new creations. Our lives are no longer our own. And when we don't hear him, and when we don't seem to see him, and when we don't feel him, man, we'd better be able to know his ways more than we know his works, and just carry on with what he has already instilled in us. Because the thing is, he's already got a reputation for asking why we're crying to him when he already told us the direction to go in. Just keep moving forward. And that's why the gospel ends on this note. There are going to be seasons in our lives that seem dry, and that's probably going to be our fault. But there are going to be moments where Jesus just isn't going to say anything. Why? Because, listen, he's already said stuff and we weren't doing anything with it. Do something with what he's already told you. Whatever you do, do not go back and pick up your life where you dropped it immediately when we first met him. Because we've been given a new identity, and that new identity works. We just got to start walking in it. And any of you who have ever tried, you're going to realize real quick, trying to go back to your old identity, it just doesn't fit anymore. It just does not work the way it used to work. And you can go and spend a month, a year, a decade, lost at sea, laboring as hard as you can at what you thought you used to be good at. The minute you get back to Jesus, the table's already set. Why did we even go on that trip? Just be where he is, even if he's not talking. Go to the last place you saw him and stay there. And just walk in the things that he taught us to walk in. We don't have to wait for him to say anything else. We got to actually start doing something with what he's already said. You're praying us out.